This is the INKPULP podcast.
Okay, we started recording. Okay, first time in a long time we managed to managed to start before the 20-minute mark of the top of the hour.
Is that when
I'm
we
typic
usually start?
I'm typically late because of work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't been paying attention.
you're a good man. What's going on, man? How are you? How
I'm what? You were gonna say
I was
something?
gonna I was gonna ask, like, how have these been doing for you?
The viewership is up a bit, and people are commenting that they're really enjoying this. It feels more like my original podcast. They're saying, which they like. So, and I
Good.
agree. I think it's good like that. I just whenever I can get out of this tornado I'm living in, I can spend more time promoting this, which I want to
So
do.
what have you been doing? You've just been kind of recording, uploading, and so on, right?
Right, but with all the other stuff going on, I haven't. I mean, I've promoted it. Just I would like all these things I have going on. I'm trying to get to a place where I have more time to spend promoting it through social media.
Can I
Everything.
ask you, is there a break forthcoming? Is there something that when you're saying more time,
I don't
clearly
know,
the time
man.
that you have is the time that you make. Is there a break coming so that you will have more time to
Right,
make?
and that's kind of my problem. Is I'm trying to figure out um, how
Yeah,
where I can take from.
yeah,
I mean, right now is particularly tricky because we're moving ink pulp instruction from one platform to another, which is a pretty big task. And the website has to be completely redesigned with new links. And I created a whole new a level system for the classes and everything. So we're basically revamped ink pulp instruction. It's
right.
not done yet, but I'm almost done with all the stuff I have to do on my end. I mean, I'm like 90% done, and then it's up to
Hmm.
marketing to get the rest of it done, which they're on
Right,
top of already. So,
of course.
I mean, we're looking at a July 1st launch. Um, but
This
with
year,
all the, what were you gonna say?
I said this year you're looking at a July 1st launch.
Yeah, like in a month.
Awesome.
In a month,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we get back to resuming releases because they've been on pause while we've been doing this. And when we get back to that, I'll shift over to that. Um, it's just going to be a crazy, crazy summer with everything I have going on. It's just, I thought about it. I'm trying to build so many different avenues in my business that it's completely time consuming, but
Mm.
not performing on the financial side yet, which is what I'm working towards, so that when it does, I can buy myself time back.
Yeah.
But
So what you're
yeah,
saying is not anytime soon.
no. Well, no, I think once I get the platform switched, I anticipate, I hope it's a little bit lighter,
Yeah.
just to give me a little more breathing room.
Yeah. That's good, man.
But yeah, I mean, I
Well,
figure it's not going to hurt to have a bunch of our episodes banked by the time I heavily promote.
yeah, I think we should do a week of this, like almost, 3 days out of the week, 4 days, whatever your time will allow. And we just do them back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Like,
need to. I was gonna ask you about
yeah,
that. I'm gonna need to because with the traveling I have coming up and all these things, that would be great. And honestly, I'm going to be spending a lot of evenings in the studio through the summer just because I need the time.
there you go. We can do it
So
then.
yeah,
We'll
that'll
set
be
it up.
great.
We'll
Yeah.
set it up. It'll be easy.
How are
As
you
long as I
doing?
know ahead of time, I can put it on the calendar and tell the family about it and set the right expectation kind of
Yeah,
thing.
we'll schedule it. I
Yeah.
don't. I'm not a last minute type of person.
Okay. What else is going on?
I'm getting ready.
We skipped last Thursday, didn't we?
Yeah, you had some
Scheduling
work
conflict.
stuff
Yeah.
happen. Oh no, your power went out. That's what it was. You had power issues.
Yeah. Both things happened simultaneously.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. It was not fun because it was in the middle of work stuff and then the power kicked off. And calling into these conference calls using my mobile was suboptimal.
Yeah, that's not good.
Anyway, here we are. Right.
You
What do
know
you
what?
your birthday is coming up, buddy?
Oh yeah, it's a week from today.
Yeah,
It's a
you're,
week from today.
it's a week from today. You're turning the ripe old age of 32, 30, 33.
If by 33 you mean 50, yes.
That looks good. Yeah, you're mid-century, dude. You're
Oh
actually
my God, don't do
you're
why do you do stuff like that? I haven't even come to that realization yet.
Congratulations. I mean, you're not there yet, but the finish line is in sight, right? You're at the last
Well,
mile,
let's not call it
crossing
the
the
finish line.
the finish line of 50, right? The finish line
Right,
of
right.
49, roaring into 50, more glorious than you were when you were when you were moving into 40. 40, I would think, right? I don't know if you do a little bit of reflection, but 40, I would think, was a very chaotic time for you 10 years ago. Was it chaotic? Was that, what was that around? Was that Gotham?
Arkham Manor.
Was that Arkham Manor?
I was about 42, I think, when I started Arkham Manor, so it was around near there. I was
Okay.
at 40. I was working at SCAD still and
Okay.
working for Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah, so chaotic is a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my 30s and my 40s were really challenging for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping it changes in my 50s. That's what I'm working
Well,
towards.
here's the thing. The difference, I think, and if you don't mind me sort of like thinking about where I think we met right around the time you were in your mid 30s, early 30s.
It was
We've
probably
known
my
each
mid 30s.
we've known each other that long. Holy
Yeah.
cow, man.
Uh-huh.
I hate that idea. I hate the fact that I've known you that long.
You're trying to get rid of me?
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like we should not know each other that long, you know? Like, we
Is
should
our
be
friendship
done.
expired? Is that what
I
you're saying?
think
It's
there
an
is an
expiration
expiration
date?
date on this friendship, and we are nearing it. This
Well,
our
tell me how much
friendship
time we
is
got
right
left.
now.
I want to soak it in.
I think I have no idea. I suspect if I look at the bottom of this friendship, it's we've gone way past best of date. You know what I mean, or best by date.
Really?
I think so. I think so.
Oh.
At this point, everything is just regurgitated. You know what I mean? We can't build on it anymore. We've plateaued. We're near the top. Everything is just downhill. No, I mean, if you don't mind me thinking back about our relationship,
Not
our
at all.
friendship,
Not at all.
especially from the limited I say limited, and I say this as you know, as honestly as I possibly can. My limited vantage point of your career had always been how I saw you was coming from more of a reactionary space, but that reactionary space was being informed by some sort of plan in your own head that was being informed by how the industry worked. Now, to be fair, to oh god, 30. Oh, I can't do the math, but that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Easily 20 some odd years ago, or like
Yeah.
shy of 20 years. The way you conducted yourself in the industry, the way you got jobs in the industry, the way you got you made connections and did the sort of the what would you say, the glad handing in the
The
industry was
networking.
way
Yeah.
different. The way different. That's a better word actually. That's the apt word. Like it's way different than what it is now,
What
right?
what was it and what is it? I mean,
Well, I
I
think there was
agree
a
with you. I'm just saying for the audience, illustrate it.
yeah. Again, limited vantage point. Jump in here and amend and or like
I agree with your
add,
assessment thus
right?
far.
I think like there was a whole lot more. Oh, maybe it's even in just in the attitude too. But I feel like there's a whole lot more like, when you're a guy trying to get a gig, you just nodded your head a lot.
Oh,
Like
like when it came when an offer came to me?
not only
Just
that, but
yes.
just like hanging out with, yeah, obviously, because you need it, right? Because you never know when the next job is going to come. But even in just the company that you keep, and mind you, I think this is cynical, but bear with me. Like in the company that you keep in that space, you just nodded your head an awful lot because you just wanted to come off as agreeable, you know?
Oh, you mean I didn't speak a lot? I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, hey, this opportunity is here, and and it wasn't even it wasn't the thought never came across sort of like your mental TV screen that might not be a good fit for you because it was what was available,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well,
Like
yeah, I mean,
clear.
go
Yeah, go ahead,
ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was going to say you're right in that I don't remember if you said something. I was acting from a place of um,
Reactionary.
reactionary. I
Hmm.
was acting, yes, and I was acting from a place of, I mean, I guess I could say desperation. Um,
Desperation and fear. Was it fear or
yeah,
desperation?
I
Was
mean,
it
I think
desperation?
everything, all of my problems were fear based. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I was just, yeah, it was. I've grown a lot, but
Yeah.
I think back to why I was like that. I mean, I never having. I think. Well, I think there's a lot of things at play here. I think part of it is I did have some insecurities. I know that. And I think listeners of the podcast are well aware of that.
Yeah.
But when I got my first job, I didn't get my second job for 10 years.
Right.
So I think that really was
Did a number
hard
on
for
you.
me. That was
Yeah.
really hard. And on top of that, during that time, I mean, I remember at like after Zoe was born, I had to go back to bartending, and
Mm.
that was hard for me. And I was still like doing sample pages on the regular after my first gig and going to all the cons and networking, and I think I just got into this mindset of like I didn't just need work. I needed to um become somebody in the industry.
Mm.
Be a player, or be one of
Yeah.
the politicians. So yeah, so then when I started teaching, I was still doing all that. So it was never like I was ever settled with my professional life, because I was always trying to get somewhere.
Yes.
And the longer it went on during that 10 years, the 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 worse my insecurities probably got. And
Mm.
I think you're right. I spent a lot of time in my head making truths that maybe weren't true,
Sure.
if that makes sense.
No, it does. It
Uh,
does. Yeah.
so,
I mean,
but then when
I don't think that's unique to you. I don't think that was unique to you. It was an industry that was built on, regardless of how there was very few people that were quote unquote made back then, right? To the people outside looking in, I remember like whenever we'd go to Heroes, which is a true Heroes Con, which is coming up for you, isn't it? You're gonna go
yeah,
there
yeah,
in a
yeah,
few
yeah, in 2 weeks.
in a week. I feel like Heroes Con. By the way, as an audience, if you guys have never been, you should really go and experience it because I think it's one of the few truly comic book centric shows left in any season.
Yeah,
Right? There's very few.
and it celebrates the art form more than I
Yes.
think any other show out there.
Right. I mean, this isn't to disregard like TCAF or any other ones that are a bit more on the. Would you say TCAF is on the indie side? You've been right.
I've never been, but I'm
Mm.
going in a few days, or I'm
Oh, there you
going
go.
in a week. Yeah, I'm going in a week. They
Well, you'll
invited
be
me
able to
up
do
to speak. What?
awesome. Well, you'll be able to discover exactly sort of the vibe. But this one's more, Heroes is more mainstream. Heroes is definitely more like, well, no, that might not be accurate. I think it's just a great Polaroid. It just captures a lot of different comic book centric, whether it be indie, whether it be mainstream, whether it be what have you. If you've never been, go check it out, right? But Heroes, I think, perfectly is sort of this testing ground on where you are in that social ladder that is relevancy. And I saw it the first time that I went, and like in the relevancy of like the mainstream comic book industry, because people know of the event and they love it. Again, it feels really good as a comic book convention. So anybody who wants to experience that ends up showing up. And I feel like sometimes, depending on how people react, I feel like how people react to you there is almost an indication of where you are in that mainstream comic book hierarchy. Just using
Yeah,
that
I think
very
you're right
specific
about that.
partition, you know,
Yeah, I think you're right about that. And it's funny you say that. So what did you call it? Social.
social hierarchy.
So I think what we're talking about in the big scheme of things, when you say I was not in my head, I was, while I had like like a friend in you and Mateo and people, I would also spend time trying to be in that social hierarchy
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you weren't.
Yeah.
And I should have taken note of that and adjusted
Listen,
course.
I think we were talking about this a long time ago, which is people can broadcast to you the clearest, most concise, actionable signal, but if your brain isn't attuned to that
Yeah,
signal, you're never
and
gonna
you
pick it up,
did. You did.
right?
You said things to me sometimes, and I still think about those. You wouldn't like make a statement. You would ask me a question.
Sure,
And
sure.
in answering it, I think I knew what you were saying and I wasn't listening.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like, there's plenty of things that I can, career-wise, we're in different places then, we're in different places now. So there were things that I was sort of like, if I was asking it in the question in order to have you answer it so that you could get attuned to what I was getting at, it was still not actionable for you back then
Mm.
because you were in the midst of just like trying to deal with finances and family and career and building on, if you were, then why wouldn't you then I would be ultra critical and say like, why were you stupid, why didn't you listen to me, or whatever it was.
Right, right.
The point that I'm trying to make with that is that between then and now you are less actionary, right? Nobody can be truly one, unless of course you've got like a gazillion dollars that I don't know of, and we're just doing this podcast for shits and giggles, right? Like I think there are times when you are when not you, just as an artist in this field in mainstream comics, when you are overly actionary and you are compelled to be that. You're always in a state of high anxiety and high tension, right? High reactionary. You're looking for the next gig. You're trying to look for the next person that you're talking to,
Right,
so that you
right,
can facilitate the next job. You're trying to nod your head at the right people, quote unquote,
right,
right people, so that you
right,
can be looked at as a person that they could, reach out to, and yada, yada, yada. You're
right.
less that now.
I don't do any of that now.
Yeah. And I think
At
this is
least I don't
so
think
much.
so. Did
No,
you see me doing that at MegaCon?
no, no. I think the great part about, here's one of my takeaways from you, which was, you know, I thought was like this. That's amazing. That's such an amazing transformation in Shawn's attitude and outlook, which is like, hey man, I'm standing behind the table and I'm talking to people because I want to tell them the stuff that I'm into right now. Like when it comes to the instructional stuff, I want to set up these panels in which I can talk to my artist buddies, but leverage those conversations into bringing more awareness to my instruction courses and all of that, right? That is I think one of the biggest and best changes that I've seen in your sort of conduct and attitude when we're at these shows. Whereas before it was like looking at each other's commission lists, right? And being
Oh
like,
yeah,
I didn't get as much as
yeah,
X, Y, and Z,
yeah.
right? And that's a switch that you can talk about all day, right? That's a switch that you
Right,
can go like, man, don't worry about these shows. The shows aren't indicative of how successful you are, how good you are at your craft, and blah 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 blah. And
right,
people will hear it, but they might not internalize it. But the
right,
moment you take that off your table, because now you're motivated by not being reactionary. Hey, where's my list look like? Am I going to get the next job? Oh, I've got to go meet so and so for lunch because, they might have the next thing. Oh, I'm going to go to this after party.
yeah.
I'm going to go
That
do a signing at the Marvel booth and whatever it is.
I did all of
Like
it. Yeah,
it's that has now been either omitted or deprioritized, and now you're focusing on what you are into, and I think that is a key to sort of like focusing on what makes you happy.
yeah,
That took, and this is not a slight, but it took like that X amount of years, right?
yeah. It took a very long time.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, right? I think it took the appropriate amount of time for you to decide, hey, I know that right now the the finances might not necessarily be as tip top as they can be, but this thing to me is so much more important long term than that thing that I used to chase that basically brought me the same amount of return,
Right, exactly.
right?
And also, when I was in that mindset back then, I was telling myself when I start making really good money, and my property value of me, like my real estate in the industry is worth more,
Yeah.
then I can stop worrying about all this shit. Because
Right.
I didn't want to be in. You're right. It was reactionary. That's exactly what it was.
But it's also the formula that you didn't devise for yourself, right? You
No,
walked
I didn't
into a
know. I mean, I think about
yeah,
this a lot.
yeah.
I never thought about these sort of things. I didn't know to think about these sort of things. I mean, I was so naive. I just was like, you come in, you get a job, you work hard, and you meet the right people, and you're gonna be great. And I didn't know about playing politics. I didn't know about all these things. And I didn't know, like you're talking about, like, what is your goal? What do you want? What is your priority? Like all these things I never thought about. Um, I never had anyone speak to me, I guess, growing up, like from a business standpoint about anything. And I didn't know no one spoke to me about the arts at all.
Sure.
I was just a naive kid.
There's a I mean, like I said, it took you this long, but I'm glad that it took you this long because now, without having those previous experiences, let's say if it like the formula was given to you in order to understand what it meant to quote unquote be successful in the comic book industry. You walked into the place, there was a set of rules on the wall. You saw everybody else was following them and you thought, "Oh, that's applicable to me too." And it's not to say that the rules were wrong. It's that the rules were short-sighted if that's your only goal.
Yeah.
If that's your only goal, then fantastic. You can, but those rules change at the drop of a hat,
Yeah, and then
right?
they kept changing. And then also, if you follow the rules and you don't get anywhere, then where are you left?
Right.
Like
And
that
so
was.
that's where I was about to. That's what I was about to hint on or hit on, which is it was all the success metrics that was happening in your life back then were externally generated,
Yeah, see,
right? And I
that's
think it's a
something
lot.
even that term. I
Yeah.
mean, what you just said, success metrics. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't have known what that even meant.
Sure.
But now I
Sure.
do. But go ahead, go
Yeah,
ahead.
but it's external. Everything was being told to you, and you're like, I guess that's what good looks like.
Right, right.
You have to go through a little bit of something. I think each artist needs to, or they were mentored very early to understand to invest in yourself and to be like. I'll give you a small little anecdote. Somebody offline reached out to me, and it was regarding Arcathena, right? And they said
Mhm.
like maybe there is an opportunity to get more eyeballs or I don't know, whatever, like the appropriate amount of attention, more attention to your projects. If you kind of switch up your game plan a bit, you've historically been known as a guy who draws these like amazing takes on, popular mainstream characters, basically doing fan art of them and,
Mhm.
collecting those in a book and then releasing those and those do favorably for you and yada, yada, yada. And then you could, as an opportunity, leverage that and, sort of like how would you say, like sort of like hitch the ride that is Arcathena onto that kind of crowdfunding effort or that sort of like attention getting effort.
So do like an art book of you drawing Batman and the X-Men, and then tag Arcathena onto it
Yeah,
in the campaign?
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
And I
okay.
thought like that is a fascinating, probably worthwhile, potentially successful way I could conduct this business, but I don't believe in it. It does not align to the values that I hold more important because I have sort of deprioritized. I mean, it's still fun. I love drawing Batman. I love drawing X-Men. I love
Mhm.
drawing all of those things. But at the end of the day, short of the actual drawing and the craft of doing it, none of it belongs to me.
Right.
Right? So I'm kind of done doing that, at least leveraging that. I did that for a while with my blog that went on for like, I don't know how many years that was,
Yeah,
but like
I
every
remember that.
day.
That's how I became aware of you. I mean, I knew
And
your
that's how
work before
people,
that, but that's how I became a real fan.
yeah, and that's how people glommed onto me. But I mean, it's like that was Blogger and Blogspot from back in
Yeah.
the day. That's not even relevant now,
Mhm.
Like things have matured way away from that, transformed way away from that. So it is to say that I took advantage, I was lucky of that time period, and by which that was a really relevant and useful tool. But nowadays, I'm realizing like there's so many more avenues, there's so many more things that distract you, and all things being the same, I don't think that was it would be as successful as that plan sort of like implies. But
Right,
and it
right.
also takes me away from this thing that I really really love, which is just drawing for myself.
Right. And do you feel like you'd end up just selling more of your fan art book than Arcathena anyway? Like Arcathena would
I
still sell the
I
same?
don't know because I never considered it beyond like I'm not aligned to that, and therefore I'm just gonna sidestep and
Right, right.
and
Well,
dedicating
it's
any more
funny you
time,
say
energy, and
this.
thinking behind it.
I had a similar thought this week.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is talking out of turn about what Jason was applying for.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Is it okay to talk about?
I don't think I think you should you should sidestep it.
Okay. Well, so Jason's applying for something.
Yeah.
Um, but so that so my plan always has been at well, my plan always was to write and draw my own books. I mean,
Yeah.
as much as I was like trying to play that Marvel and DC game, it was
Yeah.
the reason was I was like, okay, first you got to become a star here,
Right.
and then you can go do
Right.
your own thing. Because I was basing that again off my own naive perceptions, but I looked at Frank Miller and I looked at Mike Mignola
Yes.
because those were the guys when I was coming up, and I
Yes.
saw what they did, and I was more interested in Sin City and Hellboy than I was anything else.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, so in order to do that, I have to go have my Daredevil run
Yeah.
like
Right.
Miller
Right. Right.
had. And I have
Right.
to go do a Dark Knight Returns. I mean, not that I was saying I have to do something that changes the medium or the history of the medium, but just
I get
something
it.
big.
Yeah.
And then I can go do my own thing. So that was really what set everything in motion. So as of more recent, it's been everything I'm building is to, and actually, I wanted to talk to you about this offline too.
Yeah.
Everything I'm building, or a lot of what I'm building, is to bring me a passive income to allow me the time to do my own book, the
Sure.
time and
Sure.
money to do it.
Right.
So,
Right.
once Ink Pulp Instruction has a certain amount of episodes out. Once
Yeah.
we hit, I think like I talked to Alan this week. Our plan is to keep going as we're going through 2023, releasing two a month, which is a
Okay.
lot. But
Yeah.
by the end of that, I wrote down what we'll be recording from me, and by the end of that, I'm pretty sure we will have a path that will take you from I don't know how to do comics to okay, I'm ready to do comics in terms
Right.
of the lessons that are
Awesome.
offered,
Awesome.
plus the bonus, more advanced lessons of all the artists I bring on board as well.
Right.
So by the time we do that, we can really slow it down to like one a month. And
Right.
after a couple years of that, maybe six a year.
Right.
Because once we have a steady volume, it'll just be about offering something new and fresh every now and then. And at that point, it's just my job, my work for Ink Pulp Instruction will be like hitching to the marketing team and
Sure.
doing what I can do on my end to market and promote
Yep.
and talk about it while they're doing it. And so
Yeah.
that's not a huge endeavor at that point. But
Yeah.
so and then on top of that, it's other things I'm building like a threadless site where I'm doing a bunch of art and hip hop and making an entire line of t-shirts that celebrate my love for hip hop
Sure.
and
Sure.
in ways that I think people who are fans of hip hop would really enjoy to have a shirt that says this or has that image on it.
Yep.
So there's a few things like that I have going on, and the goal was when I mean, the goal is to start pretty soon getting my outline done and getting some concept art done for my own
Right.
book. So
Right.
when this thing came along that Jason's applying for, I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that. And that was that mindset of what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
That I was torn because I feel like my approach to that would make me some good money, which
Yes.
I hate that I still have to think like that, or maybe I don't
Why?
have to. I feel
Yeah.
like I have to.
Yeah.
Um, but again, that leaves me right where I am right now. It doesn't advance me. It
Yeah.
doesn't take my art forward. It doesn't take me forward professionally. So
100%.
then it was like once the excitement of that new idea settled down, I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
it's taking you off track. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that that's the way to go.
No.
So it was yesterday. I mean, I had written down a document, was like following it, and then I was like, wait a minute. Yesterday, I was like, hold on. I think I shouldn't. I think I need to stick to my plan here. And
Yeah.
and when I think about it, I think that's the mistake I've made for my entire career is I have sidestepped my real wants and goals for short-term money.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody, I don't think anybody can fault you for that. But I think, but especially, you have to develop a muscle against it. The fact that you're sitting there now going like, wait a second, I think this is taking me away from
Yeah.
the thing that I really, really want, which is a level of creative independence, to your point earlier. And by the way, I want to address this. When you were like, oh, I thought the way I could go about doing my own projects, doing my own book was being like a Frank Miller, being like a Mike Mignola, having that thing that basically makes me a made man in mainstream comics and blah, 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 blah. Now, that's still all true for a period of time,
Right. I
right?
mean that
What,
in the late 80s, early 90s, yeah, that was your only avenue.
absolutely.
Unless you were unless you were like the Hernandez brothers or you were David Lapham
Kevin
with Straight
Eastman and,
Bullets, Kevin
like,
Eastman, like
yeah,
unless you really were just like I'm going balls to the wall, self-publishing and I'm going to
yep.
fucking make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's still. I mean, my point is, it was a viable plan, but now that things have changed so much, it's it's not the only avenue, right? Again, it all
No.
depends on what your success metric looks like, right? What is successful for yourself? And for me, right now, my current standard of living, the success metric is I'm going to get these books out, right? I'm going to do this under my own terms. I'm going to be able to do this with the help of a bunch of people who are really like-minded, who are into the things that I'm into. And rare are they into mainstream comic books in a traditional sense, right? They have a love for that. They have a history with it. But they are not sitting there hat in hand asking for whatever it is that mainstream is trying to give to them. And that's not to diminish that. They're on a different path than I am, you know.
Right. Right.
So anytime that a editor, or in this case, these opportunities that our art dealer has presented, I always think like, how is that advantageous to me? It's fun in the moment, as you and I are sort of like, sitting there just like shooting the shit about it and fantasizing, oh, this would be cool, right? But at the end of the day, it takes me away. If it takes me away from the thing that will help forward me better, more, and I don't necessarily own any and all of those things, that doesn't make any sense for me. That gets deprioritized. In my brain, I've developed the muscle to
Yeah.
deprioritize
Yeah.
it very quickly.
Well, then I have a question for you because
Yeah.
that muscle in me is new and it's starting to have a little bit of strength.
Yeah.
How I guess the problem I face is this. I don't really I don't have steady income, but I
Yeah.
don't have much income at all. So it's like that old side of me just says commissions and fan art and selling and doing that.
Let me
That
tell you,
that seems to me like what?
if you're having these sort of like, it's not necessarily a crisis of faith, but you know what I'm talking about. Like if you're having moments of pause on whether or not this should be the thing, Shawn, this is the thing. You should go do this,
Go do what?
right? Go do this proposal that Jason is talking about. Take full advantage of it.
I
It's
should?
not the business plan that I'm doing, because what you have to do is look at opportunity,
Right,
right?
and that's what I did. That's what I did. But isn't but I was like I'm chasing the short-term money versus but then
No. You if you only segment it to take a look at short-term money, right? If you only see one portion of it, you have to widen your periphery to go like, how can I turn this right back into my business? What can I
Right.
do to turn this right back into the business that I'm doing? Am I recording all of the images that I'm going to be doing for this thing and putting it up as future segments within my business and saying, "Hey, this is an approach that I took to X, Y, and Z." You're already doing it, right? You're already putting it up on like Instagram and all these different places. Why not double? You should take it away. You should take the field of vision away from the thing that Jason is proposing to you and saying, I'm actually doing this. It just happens to fulfill the thing that Jason is
Right.
asking me to
Right.
do.
Right. Right. Right.
Right? You're just switching context and saying, like, it's not actually that. I'm already doing it over here.
Right.
And if I'm doing it already, why can't I leverage that to be the thing that will allow it to come right back into
Right.
my
And my
business
my
anyway?
hope is, and the reason I thought about pursuing it was, my hope is that could give me a little bit of a nest that would give me some time
Maybe.
back, that would allow me to build what I want to do.
Yeah, maybe.
I
But
mean,
there's
everything I'm
plenty.
doing is to try to build some sort of nest to let me do my thing, but I
Yeah.
haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, but so at this point you are in that discovery phase as to where those opportunities are. And this is just as good as anything else because the interior of that book is under your full control, you know? It does have to go through certain sort of like checkpoints and whatever,
Right.
right? Because again, without being too very specific about it, it doesn't necessarily 100% belong to us, right? But certainly there's things that you can do to refocus it right back into the thing that you're super into,
Right.
right? Whatever money that comes out of that, you put that into a bank and say, like, what do I need in order to make me drawing the thing that I want, the thing the dream that I want to have. And clearly, you have to find a way to like negotiate your day to day, whatever it is, right? Your day to day sort of expenses, your day to day financial responsibilities. But it doesn't have to exclusively be that. How much can how much can I squirrel away based on this income that will allow me to get me closer to doing the thing that I want to do? As opposed to being 100% like every dollar that I make, every penny that comes to me, I have to go dedicated to, you know, my 9 to 5 worries, my day to day financial
And
responsibilities.
that's what it is. I mean, that's honestly what.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be, right? So anyway, before we get into any of that, which I think is something that we should talk about offline, right? I
Okay.
really believe that if you're asking me, hey, is this something that's worth if the opportunity pops up? The answer is yes. You just have to reframe the challenge. You just have to reframe the exercise. Don't make it about that thing because that's short term. That is short term money. That is going to just end up becoming sort of like, oh, I'm doing all of this, but I feel like it's taking me away from the thing that I want to do. Instead, say, I'm going to go do this thing, and it just happens to feed that thing that Jason is asking us to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Look at it like that. Game plan it around it like that, and man, like, I don't know how there's a downside to that.
Okay. Okay.
Where are we at time wise? Oh wow, we just barely broke 30 some odd.
No,
Closer
we're
to
almost
40
at 40 minutes.
Yeah. How did we get here? Oh yeah, so you're turning 50.
Yeah.
You're getting fucking old. I think there's something about crossing not necessarily an age threshold, which is I don't know. Maybe it means something to a lot of people, but when it comes to the business of being a mainstream, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not mainstream artist, it's a commercial artist, right?
Mhm.
There is an age, and it's not 50, it's not 40, it's not 30, but there's an age threshold that you cross into that allows you for the best sort of clarity because there's a level of maturity that's now impacting your decision making. When
Mhm.
you're young, especially when you're starting out, all you're doing is you're in recovery mode the entire time. You are in like adjustment mode the entire time because life is coming at you. You're an adult. You're trying to make a living. You're trying to get your career going. You're trying to talk to all the right people. And if you're smart, you're like negotiating for your page rates. I don't understand why artists don't negotiate for their page rates. Are they afraid somebody's going to tell them no? Are they
Yeah.
waiting for somebody to
Yeah.
give them?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think that just goes back to a lack of business training in a person. I didn't know to do that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, someone like Shawn was cutthroat and always playing that, but I think his father put a sense of business in him at a young age.
Sure.
And he
Sure.
also had a mentor who was a comic strip artist that probably did the same, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's ignorant. I mean, one of the things I've done with Ink Pulp Instruction is, like I said, I had a level system. I have levels 1, 2, and 3, but I have level B, because one thing I'm going to be focusing on is this business level, and it's
Good.
it's level B, business practices, and
Good.
it's I want to be able to give to artists coming up, or artists getting started, or even artists that have been into it, stuff to think about, and understand in terms of you as a business person, and your art as a business.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. You
I
have to
really
look
wish
at
I
it.
would have had that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily need it at the very beginning, but you have to start planning for it at the very
Right.
beginning, right? Because the very beginning you have different goals. It's everything that I mentioned that allows you to continue as a commercial artist. But at some point you cross into this maturity threshold where you're like, I think I got this. I think I have an understanding of this. Why am I not, being more, why don't I have a better financial leverage where I am in my career? And by the way, I don't care where you are in your career. You could be starting out, you could be right in the middle of it, you could be near the end. You need to start thinking about the money that you're making,
Right. And that's
right?
exactly, yeah, exactly. Like, I wish I would have
Some
known.
artists that I know are stupid. I mean, like, we're not even talking about guys who just started. There are plenty of artists that I know right now, colleagues of ours, that are stupid with their money. Like, they don't have a clear understanding of how to manage their own cash. And far be it for me to be like, to come down on them. I'm not judgmental in the, like,
Right.
let everybody do whatever the heck they want to do. It's their choice. That's how they want to spend their money, right? Actually, that's a lie. I am being very judgmental, but it is to say, like, let them do whatever the heck they want to do. But
Well,
what I don't like is when they're sitting there going like, oh man, I don't know when the next thing is gonna come around. I don't know, gosh, I this job really sucks, and I really don't want to take it, but is what's available to me. I'm like, dummy, you set yourself up for that, you know.
well, that was me.
I knew it's not exclusive. What I'm saying is that it's not exclusive to you.
No, but that was me.
There's plenty of artists who go through it too, and I don't understand. It pains me to see it when it happens, right? And you and I are very close, so my level of patience with you is high. When we're not close, I'm like, stop complaining. Like, my tolerance, like, just like plummets, because I'm like, you did that to yourself. But it goes back to what you're saying, which is maybe they just don't know any better,
Well, yeah,
right?
I
Maybe
didn't. I didn't.
they just didn't have the mentorship. They just didn't have the right signal, the broadcast signal to pick up on. But this is early. When you're later in your career, oh my gosh, it becomes that much more inexcusable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the good thing I did was step away from all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And I think I was on Twitter, what is it, 3 days ago to, like, what, 4 days ago, 5 days ago. And one of the things that doing this comic has not all been sort of like roses, right? This hasn't all been like fun and games. For the most part,
Oh
it has
no.
been, right?
Yeah,
This is a
yeah.
ton of fun to do.
But you
But the
started your own
biz,
business. That's hard.
yeah, but yeah, exactly. The business end, I was just about to say. Oh man, that is incredibly uncomfortable, like, just really painful sometimes, But
Instruction's the same thing for me. Yeah.
it's a business, right? And like
Yeah.
any business
Yeah.
that you are now at the front end of, as opposed to being on the receiving end of, right? And I said on Twitter that people who've never tried, my colleagues, my peers who have never tried self-publishing before, I encourage them to try it out, right? Just once. It doesn't have to be in a super ambitious 6-issue miniseries like the thing that I'm doing. Just once, try it out. Don't do a sketchbook. Don't do don't do any of that shit. Do an actual comic book that you have to write, either co-create or do on your own, write, draw, whatever it is. Learn about learn about printing, learn about, like, formatting, learn about all of the little nuances that you kind of don't even think about once you turn in those pages to the mainstream publishing.
Hmm.
And I think my hope is that once you try it, you'll get hooked on it, right? Because as tough as it is, the reward right? Not the financial, although
Right,
I would
right.
hope that for everybody, right? But the reward of investing in yourself,
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
know that you're drawing, or in your case, like designing these lessons, designing these curriculums, the fact that you are doing that for you and not in a selfish way, but also, yeah, of course, right?
Yeah.
But like you're that's all for you. It's intoxicating, right?
Absolutely. It's awesome. I mean, as you were starting this, I was going to say that, the one thing I've really learned is I love building something myself.
Yeah, dude.
With people I like.
Yeah.
Um, but I like it much better than being an employee.
Yes.
As hard as it is to make it succeed, I'll take it over
Yes.
over a job.
Yeah. And then here's the thing. People can hear that. We're going back to the thing that we were talking about earlier. People can hear that. Everything that you were saying right now, and probably 95% of people are going to nod to, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. But until they actually go and experience it themselves, they really don't have an intimate understanding of what it means,
Mm-mm.
because they're at the behest of whatever it is that's keeping food on the table. And that's not that's not unimportant, but
Well,
certainly there's
no,
something to be
I mean,
said.
I'm still, that's where I am.
Yeah,
But I was gonna say that when you take that journey of committing to something and devoting yourself to something that you're building, you're gonna be tested the entire way,
sure.
and it's going to make sure you wanna do this, and it's
Yes.
it's not easy, but it's like you always say, you're investing in yourself, and if you believe in it and you believe in yourself, you're gonna just navigate all those rough seas.
Yeah, and some, by the way, there are in and I suspect this is not necessarily a good fit for everybody,
Mm-mm,
right? But
mm-mm.
for those that it
It's
is a
not
good
for everyone. Yeah.
yeah, for those that it is a good fit for, oh my gosh, it's really habit forming to go like, we were talking about developing that muscle to say no to things that are short term, especially if you don't need to. This helps develop those things, because you start going like, that's fun, but it's not really. It doesn't
Right,
do anything
right.
for me, you
Right.
know?
Some people are just really or soldiers. They're really good
Yeah,
soldiers and they want to
absolutely.
be a soldier. Like that's where
Absolutely.
they fit. And then some
Yeah.
people are not. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other part is, if you did not have a keen understanding of your own self-worth, this will help put it into focus,
that's true.
right? Because you start thinking like, wait a second, I'm only as good, as relevant, as worthy as whatever it is that's people are handing to me. You do this, and you come up with a product, you come up with something, whatever it is, a comic book or a book, whatever it is, but let's say a comic book. You come up with it, it's finished. Maybe it doesn't sell, maybe it does, who knows? But the fact that it exists, it communicates on a subliminal level that you are so much more relevant than you gave yourself credit for back when you were using external metric to say like, oh, I'm only good because I wrote, drew, and was successful at like Dark Knight Returns,
Right. Right.
right? I'm, that takes that sort of, it deprioritizes those thoughts, and it helps you understand, oh, wait a second, I can do this without that, right? It's not going to be that, because those things have like equity built into them. Batman has a built-in audience, Spider-Man has a
Right.
built-in audience,
Right.
but doing this thing, this is my thing, right?
Do you remember um me calling you, and I had this conversation with you a few times, more than once, where I
I
just
don't
was
listen to you often though, Shawn, so
okay, well then
refresh
that's why I
refresh
have
me.
to ask, do you remember?
Just don't
Or I
worry.
should say, were you paying attention when I asked? Um
0%.
okay. Um I was having trouble growing on social media,
Yeah.
and I was trying all kinds of different things. Um,
You were
I
close to OnlyFans. I could tell. You have an OnlyFans account. You were already taking snapshots and Polaroids and stuff. I get it. I get it.
no, but I'm doing a lot better now. I'm growing pretty good now. Um, and what my point was, I always thought it was the book you're on determines your
Yeah.
popularity, and here I am not doing any books, and I'm growing faster, and
Yeah.
and just doing my thing. So,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's value to that. I think and I said this on Twitter as well as a thought exercise. I asked, are you relevant because you're working on, you know, does your relevancy as far as your craft is concerned, right? Is it contingent upon this mainstream book that you're on, right? Whether it be an
Right.
evaluation that you do of yourself or an evaluation that people do of you, external, or a combination of both, right? Does your relevancy come from the fact that you are on these books that have built-in audiences, built-in value, right? Well-known properties that independent of you would do well anyway, or
Right.
are you really, really, truly good of your at your craft, regardless of this? And there's some people who will never understand how to go through that thought experiment
Mm-mm.
and really sort of self-evaluate to go like, no, I'm good without. I'm good without
Right.
this shit. Like I
Right.
can drop this
Right.
tomorrow. Now, here's the thing. The reason why, and I think this goes back to an earlier part of our conversation, is because they immediately attach some weird dollar figure, some weird units moved, you know what I mean? Some weird sort of like, oh, this is how much it sold this month or whatever, as a metric for their success. They never
Right.
go beyond that. They never go like, where have I grown as a craftsman,
Well, that's what. Yeah. I
right?
mean, that's I hit. I was on that path,
Yeah,
but I hit a point where I was like, let me look back and like, I haven't grown. In fact, I don't even enjoy what I'm doing now, so it looks worse.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I mean, it's so going back to our what seemingly our found theme. Here you are at 50. I want to keep underlining this because you're
Yeah. I
really
know.
fucking old now.
I
It's
know.
like a
You
lot.
really enjoy it, man. Enjoy
Oh
it.
my gosh. It's I don't know of too many 50-year-old things. You know what I mean? Like I don't
I'll
know too
say
many things.
this. Let me say
I
this.
don't know too many things in my life that I'm looking at. And I'm like,
I
I
look
think that's 50, you
I
know?
look better in my 50s than I did in my 40s and my 30s. I
Yeah, okay,
feel
listen.
better in my 50s.
Granted,
Well,
granted, I'll give you that. You're an amazing physical specimen right now,
but
but
I
you're
mean,
still 50. It's downhill. It's just gonna
but
start
but
falling apart on you.
can I be happier in my 50s?
Well, I don't know. I
Or
don't know.
is that just is that me becoming senile?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You're caring less because
Just
your brain
drooling
does
and
not have the.
eating bananas.
Yeah. You're caring less because your brain doesn't have the capacity to care more. You know.
Oh man, it's all downhill.
All right, so here it is. Here it is at 50, and I
Yeah.
think there has been there. You have had such an amazing transformation, not just physically, but also psychologically and mentally, to get you into a version of success that's so much healthier for you long term. Now, this path that you're on isn't for everyone. Some people, like you said, would be happy just drawing the X, Y, and Z as a soldier, right? That's totally fine. That doesn't take away any. That should not diminish their dreams. But in as far as the path that I think similarly, if not identically, similarly that both you and I are on, we are investing in ourselves, and that's a big deal. That's a huge, huge
I
deal. And the
agree.
fact that you got there at 50
Yeah.
is amazing.
It's a
The
little
fact that you
late.
got there at all,
It's a,
no.
it's a,
Who's to decide that that's late?
no one. No one. I'll,
No one.
you know what though? What I noticed is when you're on this path, I noticed something about myself. When you're on this path and things aren't going well, you have nothing to like put the blame upon. So it forces you to look inward to solve problems.
Sure.
I think when I was just a freelancer and things weren't going well, it was very easy for me to blame it on all these external things,
Yes.
true or not.
Sure.
And therefore, I didn't have to look inward and think about what I need to truly do to make it better.
Yeah. That's very human, right?
Sure.
It's unless you're incredibly mindful, unless you're like really take the time to be reflect inwards and put your decision making, not just the outwardly actions that you do, but just the thoughts that you have, right? The thought paths that you go down That's a version of the you can actually guide those thoughts as opposed to just like, oh, this feels bad, which means everything around. Those things are not automatic. You have to guide those thoughts down a very specific way
Exactly.
of thinking.
Yeah.
And
When you
people
learn
don't.
that you are not a slave to your emotions, that's a big one.
Have I learned that I am not as I'm
When
lacking in emotion, right? So I'm pretty dead inside.
no, I mean like when you're like, I'm angry, therefore I'm really angry. Like when you can step back, when you learn to be like, wait a minute, let me step back. Be like, actually, there's no point in being angry there.
Sure,
That's a waste of my
sure.
time, my
It's
energy.
rare. It's rare that I'll go to like DEF CON 5, right? The person that'll bring me there almost exclusively is my wife. But
And damn Panosian.
Dan Panosian doesn't make me mad. He just irritates the hell out of me. Just really freaking irritating. How good looking can you be? How good can you be at your craft? How successful can you be at your career? How successful can you be as a family man? He's just an annoying person to contrast yourself. So I try to diminish him as much as I can. So just to make him feel bad. There are times when I think he's doing just great, and boy, I lean into him the entire weekend. And what a shithole he's in. He's got to climb his way out.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Anyway, no, he doesn't make me mad. He makes me annoyed because he's an
Okay.
awesome dude.
Okay.
It's rare that I go to DEF CON 5,
Right.
but I do have an understanding and value of allowing for that emotion to happen and not always shutting it down. Right? There's value into experiencing that because there is sort of like it's inherent in me and to go into that space, and I shouldn't deny it, but to stay in that space I think
Right.
requires that sort of building. It requires that self-reflective moment. To your point, is like, wait a second, I don't think I should be as angry. I do ask myself, why am I so angry at that? Does that
Right.
challenge am I angry at that because it challenges my worldview? Does that challenge, am I angry at that because it's like a massive inconvenience and blah, 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 right? Like, I always go, as soon as I go through that sort of initial bit of emotionality, I give myself some time, and then I go like, oh, why is that so? And if it's worthwhile, definitely I'm like, oh, that's really annoying. But never try to remain in that space because I just get exhausted.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
after a good bout of being angry, being just sort of like in DEFCON 5 mode, I'm pretty much wiped out all day because that's all it does. And it never
Right.
leads to, at least in my experience, it never leads to anything actionable and
Mm-mm.
something that can use as progress. It's just angry.
Right. Right. It's like
It's
I
worse than
like
doing like 100 pull-ups. You know what I mean? Like
right.
at
It's
least at 100
exhausting.
pull-ups, I'm like, fuck, man, I can really do 100 pull-ups and look at this
Right.
muscle development. Being angry is just like I'm exhausted.
Yeah, and you feel like you just lost a year off your life or something.
Exactly. Exactly. For something that's probably 100% solvable,
Right.
or like you can recover from it. I
Yeah.
found
Yeah.
that rare is it that I'll run into something that is so like profound and deep and like devastating that I can't recover from it.
Right.
And in
Right.
those cases I'm just like, okay, what can I do about that? What is the thing that I can do to make that less devastating? And if there's something that I can do, I feel like I'm in control of it, or at least in part in control of it. Anyway, 50.
Yeah.
You're going to be celebrating it in what? In Heroes? That's a tradition, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So what's on the docket for Heroes? Is it just you're making something up once you get there? Is there something on
No,
the
Jason and Mo reserved a room at Morton's, um, took a head count. It's a lot of people. It's 20 something people.
Wow, all
Um,
wanting to be with you? I don't think that's
yeah,
true.
I
I
don't, I
don't
don't think
think
that's
that.
true either. Look, I'll admit that's not the truth.
Yeah, I think
Um,
they're there for the steak, and it just happens to be
yeah,
that it's your birthday. Now
yeah.
that Morton's is not a cheapo place. That's
No,
that's uh
no.
that's pricey.
So right. So Jason had put a
So
deposit down and we had to select a menu. It's I think it's like
it's a whole to do.
yeah, but honestly for Morton's it's not too bad. It's like 90 something dollars a person
Yeah,
for like appetizers, salads, main course and desserts. Doesn't include drinks, but
right,
that's
right.
pretty good.
That's how they get you.
Oh
You start
yeah,
rolling
yeah.
out that
I
red
mean,
wine. You
start
start
ordering
rolling.
bottles of wine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, listen. We are going to try to do our best to fool ourselves into thinking that 20 some odd people care about you enough on your very special day.
I don't need that. I
I'll
don't.
do
I
it.
don't. I don't need to believe that. I know why they're
I'll I'll do it.
there. All right, you do it.
It makes me feel good on your behalf that 20 people care about you. Yeah, that's nice. That feels good.
Yeah.
On the
All right. So
inside, it
that
makes
yeah,
me
that
feel
feels
like,
good.
hey, people care about my friend. Not because they care about the $90 mortgage steak or whatever it is.
But yeah,
All
so
right, so
that's
so okay. Go ahead.
it's actually a week after my birthday this year. Usually it
Okay.
falls on the weekend of my birthday. But on my birthday, I don't know what the plan is. All I know is Steph had me reserve a hotel room for all of us, the kids too, and that's all I know.
That doesn't sound like a sexy night. That sounds like it's you and the kids.
Yeah, but it's my birthday. I don't need a sexy night.
All right. Hold on. Let me think about that. It's, I'm just thinking about educate going back to 20 people in Morton's. That's the happier thought.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. It's your family. I've known you for a while. It's clear to me that you love them a ton. So that's going to be amazing. That's going to be all amazing. Shawn,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is the happy birthday episode. Happy birthday, buddy. Congratulations on the big 50. You look great. You sound great. Your mental capacity is its all-time high. I'm very
It's
proud of you.
getting there. I mean, I have work to do.
I can't
But
imagine
I'm
how much
doing it.
higher it's going to be. If it
Oh,
does cross a
stop.
specific threshold, I am going to knock you down the same way I do Dan Panosian.
All right. I'll look forward to that.
Yeah. All right. All right, dude.
All
We
right,
should
cool.
cut that up.
This is the INKPULP podcast. This is the INKPULP podcast. Comics, hip hop, life.